Path of Exile 2's next major update is coming soon, and in this video I'll be going over the recent teasers from GGG, what we know so far, and my hopes and expectations after putting in more than 500 hours into early access. On February 19th, the official Path of Exile Twitter account posted that 0.2.0 is expected to be released in approximately 1 month. We know that this is going to be a big one with a lot of content changes, both because of the way GGG numbers their patches and because they've straight up said so themselves. With this, it's expected that we'll see a large number of balance changes and most likely an economy reset or fresh start, like you'd normally expect with a new league or limited event. GGG usually launches new leagues or events on Fridays, sometimes Thursday, which would make the expected release date likely March 20th or 21st, if we're going from their tweet on the 19th. Of course, it said approximately, so it could also very well be the following week on the 27th or 28th, or even the week after that, April 3rd or 4th. As you may be aware, PoE2 currently has the Legacy of Frisia event going on, which started on February 20th and was originally planned to only last 1 month. I believe this was intended to end right before 0.2.0 in efforts to funnel some of the player base back into PoE2. We found out though that end date has been extended and is now planned to run until the end of April. It's very possible that's just a result of the PoE1 player base wanting more than 1 month with the event, but it could also be indication that the 0.2.0 update is going to be a little bit further out than they initially planned. Thus far, we've seen that GGG has tended to underestimate the amount of time and resources needed for PoE2, and we're already almost a week into March with no specific release date set, and GGG still saying that they have to keep the big changes under wraps for now, so I could even see it being a mid to late April release. I'm hoping not. Obviously I'd love to get my hands on the update as soon as possible, but at the same time there's a lot of work to be done, and if waiting a couple extra weeks means we get a better endgame, or new classes or ascendancies that otherwise wouldn't be quite ready, then it's probably the best move. We'll just have to wait and see though. Either way, I expect that we will get a timeline update very soon. That's enough about the date though, let's talk content. The most recent teaser from GGG mentions that new Ascendancy classes are coming with 0.2.0. Right now we have 6 classes, each with 2 Ascendancy classes, and by final release we will have 12 classes, each with 3 Ascendancies. I'm guessing we're not getting a new Ascendancy for each of the 6 classes with this update. They didn't specify how many, but they did say Ascendancy classes, plural, so we're getting at least 2. My guess would be 3 or 4. They teased a new Mercenary Ascendancy with this illustration and the caption, "Countless wars have left you with skills somewhat resembling a decent officer," hinting at the ability to command a minion of sorts. We don't know for certain that's what this is, but it appears that way to me, and on PoE2 DB you can see that there's a meta gem called Summon Companion that's not currently active in the game but is in the files. It reads, "Summon a reviving companion to aid you in combat. The mercenary will use socketed attacks and can be given equipment in the skills panel." This is most likely related and may come alongside this update. While this is a gem and wouldn't require a new Ascendancy to use, I'm guessing this new Ascendancy would partially focus on enhancing and supporting minions or allies, and may be able to acquire this skill through a passive node, not taking up a skill gem slot, or maybe they'd have an additional one, or something along those lines. As of this recording, no brand new classes have been announced yet, but I think it's more likely than not that we get some. Early access has been going on for about 3 months already, probably 4 by the time this update rolls around, and we know that there are 6 more classes coming, that they originally planned to have all released into early access within 6 to 12 months. Of course, timelines have likely shifted, but they've got to get some of them out there, and given that they've said that they're keeping the big changes under wraps for now, I'm thinking that we're getting at least 1 or 2. Now, if so, which classes could that be? There's been some speculation that Druid and or Huntress would be the next classes, because both of those were shown off in footage before early access, and I'm hoping that's the case because I'm very much looking forward to trying them both out. But GGG's wording on one of their teasers hints at another class that we may be getting. The teaser reads, "Embrace your gladiatorial fighting spirit by using the Bringer of Rain, allowing you to wield 2-handed weapons in one hand at the cost of your body armor." And this could be a hint at the Gladiator coming. In PoE1, Gladiator was an Ascendancy of Duelist, but in PoE2, Gladiator may be a main class. It's hard to say for sure, because on the PoE2 website you can see an icon for each of the classes that are going to be in the game, and this one is listed as the Gladiator, but in-game under Spirit Gems it's listed as Duelist. Either way, we don't know exactly how it will play yet, but we do know that they're coming eventually in some form. That same teaser continues, "Or show your devotion to the gods of Rayclast, old or new, by being buffed with random shrine effects from the Hammer of Faith." This could be a reference or hint of the Templar, another class that we know will be coming in time. In PoE1, the Templar was a strength-intelligence hybrid with ascendancies of Inquisitor, Hierophant, and Guardian, but it's very possible that some of the ascendancies would be different in PoE2. My guess is that we'll be getting at least one new class, but I'm hoping for 2 or 3. Assuming we do get new classes, that would mean new weapon types as well. Based on the gem system in the game, you can see that while any class can use any weapon, each does pair up with a specific type of weapon, and that will be their primary or starting weapon. So if we get the Druid and Huntress classes, we would get primal weapons, like claws I assume, and spears. If we get the Duelist or Gladiator and Templar, we'll get swords and flails. And alongside any new weapon types, we'll also get their skill gems. One thing that we know we'll be getting is new support gems. GGG also teased this, stating, "We're adding a lot of new support gems with an emphasis on skills that are lacking support gem options. Check out Derange, Volcanic Eruption, Embitter, Concoct, and Commiserate." This is just a small taste of the many new support gems. When you look at the gem cutting window, there are a lot listed coming soon, and it sounds like this update could fill in a good portion of those. They haven't specifically mentioned any skill gems though. While obviously if we get new classes and new weapon types, we'll get those like I mentioned, but there are also some skill gem slots with the current weapons that just say coming soon. Quarterstaff and crossbow both have 2 missing, bow has 3, and mace has 5. Of them, I think mace could definitely use the most love, so hopefully we get some of those as well. Another thing we know will be changing to some degree is the endgame. If you made it very far into endgame in PoE2, you probably realized it's currently the least polished part of the game. GGG stated that their focus shifted late in development, and while PoE2 has been in the works for years at this point, endgame is something they only focused on in the last 3 to 6 months leading up to early access. While there is quite a lot of content there, it feels unbalanced and unfinished compared to the rest of the game, and especially when compared to PoE1. Of course, that's to be expected. PoE1 has a decade of development to get where it stands now, but that aside, it left some players, especially some PoE1 veterans, feeling underwhelmed. We don't know how extensive the changes will really be, but GGG has confirmed we are getting, quote, a lot of improvements to endgame. One of the major complaints in the game has been the Atlas and Tower system, with a lot of people not enjoying the gameplay loop, in which to be efficient you need to navigate to the towers by doing the less desirable maps, then clear out the tower, which in and of itself is pretty empty and boring, so that you can then juice up the other maps around the tower, hoping your tablets hit good maps, and then repeating that for multiple towers, at which point you can finally run the good juiced up maps. It simply takes too much setup and completion of less desirable content to get to the fun maps that you actually want to run. We did get updates previously increasing the number of boss maps and giving us boss map precursor tablets and additional tower layouts, but it's still far from where it needs to be. One of the teasers we received addresses towers specifically, stating that all content will be able to spawn in tower maps, and that they'll have the same clear requirements as normal maps. This has a portion of the community upset because while it's nice that they won't feel as boring, it will also slow down the process of that gameplay loop to get to the good maps. This change means that when you use a precursor tablet, it could go off on another tower instead of an ideal map, and towers generally are small and have bad layouts for a number of the mechanics. Giving them the same clear requirements as normal maps also means that instead of being able to just rush to the end to complete the tower and move on, you will need to track down all rares in the map before you can complete it. I think this change comes from a good place, but it feels more like GGG addressing a symptom of the problem rather than the problem itself. Hopefully other large endgame changes are in the works. On that note, we did get a peek at another endgame change that's coming, and that's adjustments to the Atlas passive tree with this image. We don't have the specifics, but if you're familiar with PoE1, you'll probably recognize that some of those nodes look an awful lot like Rogue Exiles from PoE1. Rogue Exiles are a system from the Anarchy League in which unique enemies have a chance to spawn within your map, mimicking player characters, using a number of player skills, and dropping a large number of items, including one for each inventory slot. I'm guessing it would work similarly in PoE2 and have a chance to spawn on any map, kinda like strongboxes currently do. More League mechanics are definitely welcomed, but personally I'd love to see some more of the larger ones that would probably spawn on maps and have their own passive tree like Breach and Ritual currently do. I've been getting into PoE1 lately with the Legacy of Freesia event, and the amount of endgame content and League mechanics available is incredible, and PoE2 could really benefit from having more of them. Specifically, I've really been enjoying Blight and would love to see that brought over. Speaking of those in the Atlas passive tree though, one thing I would really like to see is a little overhaul of how the pinnacles in their passive trees work. In their current state, I think most of them feel a little backwards in how your points are acquired, having a big cost of entry like farming 300 Delirium Splinters, and then requiring completing the pinnacle multiple times to unlock nodes to speed up the process of collection. I would love to see a change where you can start to earn points in the trees before completing the pinnacle. Maybe your first 2 or 4 points can be earned by doing the mechanic in maps a number of times, and then the final points come from completing the pinnacle itself. I also think there should be some balancing, as some of them at difficulty 0 feel more difficult than others at difficulty 4. I'm looking at you, Delirium. These changes might be a bit of a pipe dream for this update, but hey, I can dream. I think 0.2.0 will also give us an idea of how GGG wants the endgame to play out and feel. Currently, the endgame feels more like PoE1 than it does the PoE2 campaign. The power progression seems off, and you go from playing a slower, more methodical campaign into a speedy endgame where a lot of the builds are clearing the entire screen full of enemies in fractions of a second. This feels somewhat unintentional, but GGG has let it go on for a few months now, and if they're planning on changing it, now is the time to do it. They've steered away from making big balancing changes through minor patches, likely because they got some backlash early on when they nerfed builds without giving a free respec or anything, making a number of players feel like their character was effectively bricked. But with an economy reset, there will surely be a number of balancing changes, and it can go one of a couple ways. Either they will nerf a number of current meta builds into the ground in an attempt to slow down the game, or they could buff underperformers to bring them closer in line with the meta builds. I think either way it's probably going to upset a lot of people, because some people have become used to the level of power that they have and will be upset if that's taken away, but there are also people that want the endgame to play more like the campaign and feel it's too similar to PoE1 right now. Personally, I'm somewhere in the middle. I like being able to get to the point where you feel godly clearing entire screens of enemies quickly, but I definitely feel like the progression and power curve is off and needs some adjustments. The last major thing that I think we could get with 0.2.0 is new campaign acts. We know that they're working on acts 4, 5, and 6, but they haven't really mentioned when we can expect them. In an interview, Jonathan mentioned not really knowing the best way to release them, whether it be one at a time or all at once, and how it would play out with the current transition into Cruel and Endgame. Obviously, Cruel is temporary and will go away once we get all 6 acts, but I think he just means from a gameplay or story perspective. Personally, I think that they should release them one at a time or as they're ready, and phase out Cruel as such. So if Act 4 is ready, then we can do Acts 1 through 4 and then say Cruel 1 and 2, and then transition into Endgame, or something along those lines. It doesn't need to be perfect or make perfect sense from a story perspective. We all know we're in early access and Cruel is temporary, and I think the more time that we have with them in early access the better. It gives them a better chance at finding and fixing issues, and gives us more content to play. I'm not necessarily expecting new acts with this update though. Based on what we've seen and heard so far, I think this one's probably the least likely of things to come with this patch, and I'd guess maybe with the next big update we could see some. But who knows, I could be wrong. What do you think though? Let me know in the comments below when you think the update will come and what you're hoping for or looking forward to the most with 0.2.0. Personally, I'm really looking forward to new classes and hopefully some good endgame updates, and I'd rather have it sooner than later, but I'm also enjoying Legacy of Phreesia, so I don't necessarily mind letting them cook if it means we'll get better content. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to toss it a like or subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a ton and is greatly appreciated. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.